On BBC Local Radio in Shropshire, South Cheshire, North Staffordshire, the West Midlands, Worcestershire and Herefordshire. You're listening to The Gruesome Twosome. Mike Adams and Chris Savoury on the show that values your vinyls. It's The Record Collectors between now and 9 tonight.
Our special guest tonight on The Record Collectors, I believe I'm right in saying, is our very first female guest that we've ever had on that's made records, Cilla Black. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you very much. Oh, I'm quite honoured, actually.
You're our very first female that we've ever interviewed who's made records, although we've been going quite a while. Can I start off...
Can you get anybody else?
Well, we keep trying. Can I start off by asking you about your musical influences? Because I know that you signed up with Epstein partly because I think there's a little influence because your father bought a piano from his store. Would it have been your parents that influenced you musically, or was it the record you were listening to?
I think basically, yes. Basically, from when I was very, very young, there was always music in our house. Whether it be Al Jolson or Hank Williams, a lot of country and western. And then I've got two older brothers, so then it went from sort of Frank Sinatra, and then my middle brother, R. John, he liked jazz, he liked traditional and modern jazz. So I had all those, coming from Al John. And my mother loved, who's that woman, Jessie Mack? Over my shoulder goes one care. So it was a mixed bag. So by the time it came to me when I was in my teens and started to buy records, I bought sort of records by Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers, and I also liked Della Reese, because she had a big voice and I had a big voice, and it was very sort of you came a long way from St. Louis, really big and butch, but I didn't know I had a big butch voice. You started, I think most references say when you were at the Cavern and various other places asking if you could join groups for a song, you were really singing standards, weren't you, like Bye Bye Birdie and things like that? Bye Bye Blackbird. Bye Bye Blackbird, yeah. That was a Della Reese version, yeah. I did, which was also very, she had this big voice, and the reason why I suppose cultivated a big voice, because I'm not, half the records that I've done are very quiet, like Liverpool Lullaby and Sing a Rainbow and things like that. And in fact, I've mixed half the records with the soft voice and the big voice. But that's because of where I lived. I used to go where it echoed, and I wanted to be heard, and that's why I got into the big voice bit.
If my memory serves you right, I can't remember seeing this written anywhere, but I'm sure I saw you sing with King Size Taylor and the Dominoes.
Oh, I was the female singer, yeah.
I saw you at the Cavern, because you did do some work at lunchtime there, for a 5 bob at a town occasionally. 5 shillings an hour. In my lunch hour, I was working in an office in Stanley Street in BICC, and mainly the Beatles used to do the lunchtime sessions. I mean, Ted wouldn't do the lunch, because he had a proper job. So it would be mainly sort of groups. Well, it was the Beatles. I can only remember the Beatles doing the lunchtime sessions. Do you remember, out of interest, the Springfields coming down to one session at the Cavern? No. Remember? And they joined the Beatles fan club before they even did Love Me Do. Just remember that.
You mean Dusty and the
Dusty?
No, I don't remember that. I mean, that's a new one. That's fantastic. No, wish I'd have known
1961.
That. Really?
Yes.
No, never knew that. The Cavern, you see, where people think it was a rock and roll club, it wasn't. It was really a trad.
Jazz.
Jazz. I mean, and the Blue Jeans, Hippie Hippie Shake. I mean, really. I mean, they were really a trad band. And then because they were so professional and everything, and when the 60s things came along, they had the Hippie Hippie Shake. That shows you how adaptable that they are.
One of the things that interests me, Cilla, is that much play has often been made on the fact that you were the only female signed up by Epstein. Two things strike me with that. One question is why, and the other question is there never seemed to be many other females, probably Beryl Marsden, but there didn't seem to be much female talent in Liverpool anyway. Is that right or wrong?
Well, the first question, when you say managed by Brian, I think he could only handle. After me, I don't think he wanted to take on anybody else. Not that I was difficult, but girls are different, I mean, in those days, in the early 60s, as it is today, you know, fellas, they muck in, and they're a band. They get to a theatre, and they don't mind the state of the situation or whatever. But I mean, a girl, I mean, she's different. A woman is different in every way. Plus the fact I didn't have my own band, didn't have my own group. I mean, I turned up at the first radio show live, and just expecting Bob Miller and the Millermen. They were the names, and I expected them just to know my Love the Loved, because that's the way I worked. You know, if I wanted to do a song, I'd say to the guys at King Size Tail and the Dominoes, I'd say, or the Big Three, oh, I've heard this great song, Peggy Lee Fever, I want to do it. It goes like this, and they would pick out the chords, and then they would play. And I thought that's how it was, and I'd turn up at the recording studios, and Bob Miller and the Millermen asked me for my parts, and I said, Bobby, called Bobby, asked what is he talking, I don't know what they're talking about, parts. So it was a different situation, and I think it was a new bag of tricks. I think Brian would have liked to have taken on another girl singer, and you're right about Beryl. Beryl was terrific. But then I think that situation, I mean, I am very adaptable. It was hard adapting to a new life, and I don't know whether, I think I'm right in saying I don't know whether Beryl could have adapted to that. Otherwise, she never really went with it, did she?
Brian Epstein, Epi, you had as I recall, you got to appear for about you went into a show for several months that Epi put you to in the West End, and you didn't see him for a long time, and it was a bit of a confrontation with him, and I gather he came, I think Bobby was there, and he broke down, didn't he? That's how that's the story I've heard. And
the show we're talking about is the great man who's come into the room and left. It was the Frankie Vaughan show, and I'd had 2 number ones while I was at the London Palladium, and I was there for 9 months, nearly 10 months, and Brian had said to me, I've signed for the length of the show, but don't worry, I mean, every show, the last 3 shows I've been in there have not lasted longer than 6 weeks. And there was I, sort of, in my 6th month saying, Brian, they will have forgotten me in Liverpool. And, you know, I'm really in the heart, the centre of the world. I mean, it was because of doing the Palladium I got the Ed Sullivan show, 2 Ed Sullivan shows out of it. And really, a lot of my success, because I was so short-sighted in those days. I thought, well, if I'm in London, they will have forgotten me at home. And my main priority was, I don't want them to forget me in Liverpool. Now I know much better. And there was a round, there was a big round, because he was going through a bad time himself, personally. And he had a drug problem, I think.
What sort of person do you think Brian was?
Brian was always, whatever he was, whether he was taking, whatever. I don't know much about drugs, you must understand that. But he was always the perfect gentleman. Generous to a fault. And just a perfect gentleman, you know, I can't... He was actually, apart from Bobby, he would have been my ideal. If I was on blind date, I would have liked to have picked him.
That's lovely. So, we haven't really talked about your actual recording career. Can I ask, when you first started your recordings, tell us a little bit about what it was like. Is there any stuff that you cut then that never came out? I mean, kind of takes and things like that. We've talked to various artists, and they've told us sometimes they've done a tune, it's taken 30, 34 times, sometimes it's cut straight off.
Now, I was never that kind of artist. I mean, the nearest you're going to get to it is with Alfie, where we did 18 takes, and that was with Burt Bacharach.
Yeah.
And I remember, because George Martin didn't like to work that way, because he used to think, well, we had a 3-hour session, and it was very, very expensive in those days, as it is now today. So we actually had to do it like a live, which suited me, like a live show. And we would do in a 3-hour session an A and a B side and a track for an album in 3 hours. With singers, that's the whole mix. That's it.
That would have been 4-track, wouldn't it, at the time?
Well, no, I recorded in mono.
Right.
I mean, the thing is, if I'd make a mistake, I'd have to do the whole thing again. There was no such thing as drop-ins and things.
Was Love of the Love was mono, but wasn't anyone who had a heart done in stereo?
I don't think so. No, we did it. If it was, I wasn't aware of it, because on that session in particular we had 45, maybe 48 musicians, and there was no drop-ins. No, we did the whole thing with the orchestra, the breakaways, and myself.
Can you remember what the tracks were that you recorded on your very first session?
On the session? Well, yes, I can, because we did. Well, are you talking about the audition or the actual?
Your actual first recording session.
Yes, I did Love of the Loved, and I did the B-side, Shy of Love, which was written by Bobby.
Just the two?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any stuff that you've recorded from that period that's never been released?
I wouldn't know, because they would have used everything. I mean, with a different A&R manager, yes, there is stuff. There's a George Harrison song, which is a beautiful song. I think maybe Ringo might have recorded. I'll Still Love You, and the lyrics are great. I mean, I still remember it. You know, when every bell is rung, when every song is sung, when every pitch is hung up, I'll Still Love You. I mean, it's great work.
You mentioned Burt Bacharach and Alfie. Was that cut in the States then, or here?
No, I hated Alfie. I know I did it tonight, but I did not like it. I mean, for a start, Alfie, I didn't, you know, it's what you call your dog. I mean, you know, you'd call your dog Alfie or the budgie, wouldn't you? And it was just one of the. I mean, I was young then, and now I think it's the greatest thing that ever happened to me. But at the time, I was at Wimbledon doing pantomime, playing Little Red Riding Hood in all my beaver gear. So I was quite young. I was sort of 20, 21, and I got this song with a fella singing. What's it all about, Alfie? And I thought, no, I don't like this. It wasn't me. I mean, I'm really a rock and roller at heart, so I didn't like it. And I thought, I can't say to George Martin, I don't like it, I don't want to do it. So I thought, well, I'll do the ultimate, I'll say, which I never ever do, and I'll never ever do again, because it never works. And I said to George Martin, I said, yes, I'll do it, on condition that Burt Bacharach does the arrangement and he plays on the session. And do you know, really, I did, because I never thought that he would come back. I thought he'd tell me, you know, go fly a kite. But he said yes. And that's how really I came to do Alfie. I didn't want to do it.
And
we did 18 takes. And I remember, it's a really a gymnastic kind of song, Alfie, for a singer. Because Burt Bacharach writes for instruments. He doesn't write, or he never wrote for the, vocal.
For the piano.
He wrote for all the instruments in the band, and you had to fit in. So when I did it all, we all did it live again. There was no drop-ins. And on the 18th take, I remember George Martin saying, from the box, pressing the button, Bert, you know, what are you looking for? And Bert said, well, George, I'm looking for that little bit of magic. And George said, well, Bert, I think we got it on take 3. And that's what you hear, that's the record, that's take 3.
Have you any memories that, because we've done a lot of features, we've had John Lennon's sister on the programme not too long ago, but that you were the butt end of some of John Lennon's humour.
Oh, dreadful.
Have you any little snippets, gems you can share with our listener?
No, they're too rude.
what was his nickname for you, Cilla?
Cyril, and Paul still today calls me Silly. I don't know why. Well, we're all, I'm Silly Cilla, and Cyril. He was very kind, actually. People don't realise how kind John Lennon was. Oh, terrible acid. Lovely acid. I loved his humour. But he was quite shy. And it's because he was quite shy with women, especially, very shy with women, that he used to have this aggressive thing. And I never realised that. I mean, of all the people, I was very good friends with Ringo. And of all the people that I would have thought would have told Brian about me in Liverpool, because Brian didn't know. I mean, the only thing how he heard of the Beatles was when everybody went in and asked for the record My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean, and then he had to see, he never had it in the collection, or he did, but it was by Tony Sheridan and the Beatles. But I mean, you know, that's the kind of thing that Brian went along and thought, wow, the Beatles. And we went, and he went to see the Beatles, and then it just stemmed from there. And John actually told Brian about me. And it was quite weird, because I wouldn't have put down in a million years. I would have had a bet with you that it would have been Ringo that would have told Brian about me.
What is your favourite recording of anything that you've ever done?
Well, I really don't have a favourite. I think I love Step Inside Love. I think that because of the story behind it, basically. Because I remember Paul phoning me up and asking me, can I write you a theme song for the upcoming TV series? I couldn't believe it, because I was going through a terrible stage when the BBC wanted me to do a sort of a Billy Cotton band show kind of opening, which I'm not knocking that, but when you're a young person, I mean, if you think of a kind of Madonna today, I mean, that's the kind of person I suppose I was from the British point, or Kylie Minogue in those days, you know. So I was quite knocked out by that.
Well, Cilla, I think time has beaten us, so thank you very much for talking to us, and we'll step out with Step Inside Love.
Great, thanks a lot.
Step inside, love, let me find you a place where the cares of the day will be carried away by the